Today on Love Factually, we're answering a very common question I get from clients. How much will my case cost?
Author and family law specialist Douglas Garner.
So Douglas?
Certified family law specialist Douglas C. Gardner. There he is.
Hi, Douglas Gardner from the Davis Miles Law Firm.
I'm often asked, Mr. Gardner, how much is my case going to cost? And if I'm being honest, my answer is, I have no idea how much your case is going to cost. There are some cases that can be quite simple, and many cases end up being much more complex than the clients thought they would be. Some divorces may range from a simple case being several $1,000s. I've done many of these cases, but I've also had cases that have cost several $100,000 and gone all the way up to the Supreme Court. I won those cases, by the way. And then there's many cases that fall somewhere in the middle. And how complicated will your case be, or how expensive will your case be? Well, it just depends. And how simple your case is going to be, and how complicated your case is going to be, how expensive your case is going to be. These are just things that I'm not going to be able to tell you during the initial consultation because there's just many things that you and I just won't know that early on in the case. It's important to understand there are two ways to resolve any case, or the case as a whole, or any issue within the case. One of the ways is to settle the case, reach an agreement, have the judge approve the agreement. The other way is to go to trial and have the judge just decide based on the evidence presented what the judge wants to impose on both parties. Clearly it's faster and cheaper, and there's a lot of other benefits to settling the case. Importantly, the parties get to agree on something rather than have the judge shove it down their throats. Generally speaking, if we're able to reach an agreement, it's less expensive than going to trial. If you can reach an agreement very quickly and very early on in your case, your attorney's job is primarily just to draft up that agreement into words that are into legal words that are very detailed and enforceable and can be beneficial to you later on. But if you can't reach an agreement early on, then you may have to go to more expensive mediation, or the judge is going to set the case for trial. Now, I have some cases that do settle early on, and those cases cost much less. But I also have some cases that don't settle until the day of trial or the evening before trial. Those cases, there's a lot of benefits to settling, even if it's only an hour before trial or a day before trial. But as far as one of the benefits of settling is not having to incur the cost of preparing for trial. But if trial is next week or tomorrow or starting in a few minutes, clearly we have already incurred the cost of going to trial. So while settling your case is a way of keeping the cost down, there's a difference between settling your case early on and settling your case at the last minute. It's also important to understand that you and me as your attorney, that we're going to be responsible for about half of what decides whether or not your case is simple or complicated. Unfortunately, the other half of that comes from your soon-to-be ex and or his or her attorney, that they're going to, how they behave in the case. If they're reasonable and if they are cooperative, both attorneys are working well together and exchanging the documents and exchanging information, and both attorneys then can have a good understanding of the case, it's usually much easier to reach an agreement and much less expensive. On the other hand, if you have the opposing attorney or the opposing party that are being unreasonable, that are delaying the case, that are hiding documents or causing us to have to subpoena records and do depositions and other things, their unreasonable behavior may cause you and I to incur additional time and expense and thus have a higher attorney's cost at the end of the case. So even if my client is being completely reasonable, if the other side is being unreasonable, sometimes that can still increase the cost of the case. Now, my job as your attorney is a very difficult job. I have to, on the one hand, do as much as I can to help you so that you can get the best result in your case. And on the other hand, I have to try and do as little as I can to help you keep the cost down. And so I work with my clients to find the right balance. If I have clients that have a very strict budget, we may have to make more difficult decisions, and there may be some strategies that we decide not to undergo because of the cost of those cases. If I have clients with higher budgets, we may be able to take additional steps that, while more expensive, may help us to obtain a better result at the end of the case. So regardless of who your attorney is, work with that attorney. Help them to understand your budget and your constraints. Help them to understand your limitations, and work with your attorney. Good attorneys appreciate when you can stay current on your bill, and if you're not able to stay current, make sure you're being very forthright with your attorney and explaining your limitations. Get on a payment plan if they will allow you to do that. Come up with a plan of how you can make sure that they're paid before the case is finished. The bottom line, other than I have no idea, the answer to how much is my case going to cost is usually it's going to cost more than you expect. Just as a general rule, people are very optimistic, and then divorces are very messy, and so optimistic people are usually wrong in divorce, and your case will probably cost more than you expect. So make sure you have a plan. Make sure you have friends or family that can step in and loan you money if necessary, or you have other ways to access money, because sometimes if you run out of money and the other side still has access to money, they can put you in a very significant disadvantage in your case where you may be forced to agree to something that's much less than fair to you, or to go to trial without an attorney, which is never a good idea. So make sure that you have protected yourself by having access to funds necessary to fight the fight. I hope that you've enjoyed this Love Factually video. Please click the like button to help other people find our great videos. Also, hit the subscribe button so that you have access to our other videos, and click the notification bell so that you are one of the first people to have access to each new video as it comes out. Any good attorney product comes with a disclaimer. Here's mine. Number 1, watching this video or reading my books does not make you a client. And until you come in and consult with me or hire me or one of our attorneys here in the firm, there is no attorney-client privilege that's created. These videos and books are general in nature and should not be used in place of specific and detailed advice. Every case is different, and you need to discuss the specifics of your case with an attorney. Number 3, until you hire me or come in for a consultation, the only legal advice I can give you is that yes, you should consult with an attorney. Finally, because your case is unique, no amount of Google, YouTube, or even my wonderful books can replace the advice of an experienced attorney. I'm often asked, Mr. Gardner, why is the phone ringing?